All right, this is Jerrilyn Rheman, and I am interviewing Beth Fraley and Jewel Cullins for the Katy Heritage Project, Legacy Project. So, good morning, ladies.
Good morning.
I'll just start with you, Beth.
Okay.
Tell me your background, your name, your birthplace.
Okay, my name is Shirley Beth Thompson Fraley. I was born in Katy, on Katy Hockley Road, where I am now living. And that was 89 years ago. And my dad came here, his family, the Wilkerson family, and the Thompson family were here, head of Dad's daddy. And his father, Grandpa Thompson, whose house is still on Katy Hockley, and somebody's living it. It'll be 100 years old next year.
Wow.
And they came in 1898. And so, kind of make a long story short, he eventually became a rice farmer, my grandpa did. So my dad, being the oldest son of 7 children, he started farming rice also. So I'm from a rice farming family. My brother farmed rice. And I think now there's just one cousin left, Albert John Thompson Jr., but he's retired. So anyway, no rice farms anyway right now.
They're not.
This year, no.
That's true.
So my family came from Iowa, way up in Iowa. They heard Katy was a good place, and like I said, their parents had already come here a couple of years ahead. So Grandpa decided he wanted to come with Grandma, and she had a baby. They had a baby they brought with them. And the storm of 2000 came and tore down what little they had built.
Yes,
out Katy Hockley. We call it on the hill because it's a slight called
Wolf Hill.
I can't think.
Wolf
Hill, yes, because the wolves would go there when it rained so much and it flooded. So the wolves would go through that higher elevation.
Yeah.
And so Dad ended up owning that. So I got to enjoy that up on the hill when I was in high school, you know. So that's beginning.
Yeah.
All right, Jewel.
Okay, I'm Jewel Cullins, and I was born where the old Katy Fort Bend Road crosses 99, and on a farm there that was owned by Mr. Roy Morrison, who was a old Katy man. Yeah. And my parents came to Katy. Well, let's see. My parents came to Katy probably. My mother was about 2, I think. She was born in 1904, so many years ago. She was born in Ohio, and in Henley, Ohio. And my father was born in 1893, but he came from Magazine Mountain, Arkansas. He was a real Okie. No, not an Okie. What is it? He was an Arkansas hillbilly. But anyway, my mother had come with her parents, who were the William Utons, and they lived at Barker. And, actually, the original house was not that far down. It was where the old Elrod Creek is now.
Okay.
So I know my mother remembers rolling down the hill after she got into a bumblebee nest on that hill when she was a child. But anyway, so that's my story. I'm sure they came by a covered wagon. I don't know. How else would they have gotten here? Or wagon, whether it was covered or not, I don't know. But many years ago. And then they met. My daddy went to work for her father. Her parents owned a kind of a farm, but it was I don't even know what they farmed, grain, I think. It wasn't rice. They did not farm rice back then. And he went to work for him and met my mother, who was one of about 10 or 11 children. And anyway, that's how they met, and they ended up getting married. Yeah. My grandfather owned the Barker store. That was way back then, only store in Barker, and he ended up being the postmaster of the Barker post office with another man. I can't remember the other man's name, but he worked there for a long time, and then he was the only one, a postmaster for a while.
That's awesome.
Yeah, old people.
All right. So, tell me about your siblings.
Okay, I had 2 sisters and a brother. I was the youngest, so of course they thought I was spoiled, but my dad didn't spoil kids then. You know, I was just being, they were better off by the time I came along, so I did probably have more things, so they thought that was spoiled. I didn't think I was spoiled.
Of course you didn't. Neither did I, and I was the last.
Yes, and they were all born on Katy, Hockley, because you didn't go to hospitals then. There weren't any hospitals close by. There was one in Houston, and that was a long way off. And so your neighbors, or if the doctor got out there in time, he delivered. If not,
A midwife.
we had, yes, Miss Ben Beckendorf. We called her Aunt Benny. She just lived about a mile away. And Daddy got on the phone and tried to get the doctor. Couldn't get hold of him, and the operator says, after about the 3rd time, Mr. Thompson, I know where he is. Should I tell that story?
Sure.
Said he's down at the hotel having coffee with all the single teachers.
Even way back
So
then.
my dad was not happy about that. I could tell when Dad was mad, but he didn't have a outgoing temper, I guess you say. But Mother said he was really upset, and he went to town and got the doctor. Time he got home, I was almost delivered by Aunt Benny. So I made it.
Okay, I had 1 sister and 1 brother. My brother was 10 years older than me, and my sister was exactly 5 years older than me. So they said I was spoiled, and they were wrong. But anyway, so we were close though. My brother was kind of out of the way by the time I was born, 10 years or so. When you're 10 years old and your mother has a baby, that's not their favorite thing, I don't think. In today's day, it might be, but back then it was not. No. But like Beth said, we didn't use a doctor, and I can't remember the doctor's name. We've had several doctor. I don't remember. Mother-in-law was the last one, so that wasn't it. But anyway, I didn't have a delivery by a doctor, that's for sure. But that was my story, and my sister, of course, both of them passed away, so.
Yeah.
But they lived to be old. My brother was probably close to 90, or maybe he was 90, I'm not sure. Probably. My sister was 88, so I've outlived them.
Yeah.
I was by being 89 and a half. Yeah, so.
All right. How about tell me about your early childhood? What are some of your first memories?
My memory is not good about my early childhood, so I think we were poor, but we didn't know it because everybody around us at that time was in the same fix almost. That was at the end of World War II and like that, so it was a hard time on the families. And Dad being a rice farmer, it was always a gamble with the crop would come in because they didn't have all these modern machines to pick up the downed rice and things. So Dad said at his time he was one of the very few Katy farmers that never lost a crop.
Oh.
So he was very fortunate in that. When the storm came, he had just harvested, and they sacked their own rice and sewed up the sacks, and they kept them in. Dad had a warehouse where we lived, and that storm blew that down, so it got wet. Well, the guy that owned the big Katy warehouse in Katy at that time, and it was a railroad track ran by it. He said, "Mr. Thompson, my warehouse is empty. If you would like to bring your rice and lay it out and let it dry." So they opened all those sacks, got them in Katy, and spread it out. So he saved his crop, one of the few that was able to do that, and he was thankful for that. We were thankful for that.
What'd you do when you were little? for
What?
What did you do when you were little for entertainment?
What kind of toys did you
living
play
out
with?
in the country, we didn't have close neighbors, so you had to make your own entertainment, and you had to have a good imagination.
Oh, yeah.
And I loved to climb trees. So we had trees, and we played. My brother and I were 3 years apart, so we were kind of all the time pestering each other, and a lot of sports.
Yeah.
And that, and you did games, and
Do you remember any toys that you played with when you
yeah.
were?
Well, on Sunday,
What toys did you have?
the toys, maybe a tricycle, little tricycle, which probably was a hand-me-down since I was the last child. And then we had like jacks, played jacks, and I'm sure we had a ball. I can't remember. And we loved to run in and out of Mother's clothes that she clothesline.
I'm sure she loved that too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
She did.
really? No kidding.
we didn't have dryers
Got
then.
no switch to me.
But you had to make up your own entertainment.
Yes. Yeah. And one of my favorite things when I was old enough to do this was climb a tree, sit in the top of a tree. I think it was a cottonwood tree. It had those little round balls that had a thing and you could throw them.
Yeah.
And my daddy found a tennis ball in the ditch. He maintained for the county. He drove a maintainer and cleaned out ditches because everything was dirt roads, out here. And we lived off of Peak Road in a little literally rambling, yellow painted, used to be painted house. And we were literally poor. I mean, but my mother and daddy did not let us know that. And well, we never even thought about it because everything we ate and everything that meat or vegetables, mother grew and they butchered, except for milk. We had a cow. Let's see, we buy 2 or 3 things at Ray's Grocery in Katy, and that was when it was behind the old Miller Motor Company there on Avenue 8, I think. Yeah. But anyway, but I'd climb a tree and sit up there and daydream. Even as a little bitty kid, that's what you did. You could see everywhere, literally. And then I loved, and of course then Mother didn't even know where I was half the time, I'd walk the ditches and it would rain, after a rain, and pick up little pieces of broken glass. And you'd be surprised how many different colored little pieces of glass. I kept them in a jar, fruit jar. And I would fill up a jar from picking up all those little pieces of glass in a big ditch down there on Clay Road or where you could walk to. And but that was my entertainment. And then we had a rice field next to the house, but that was when they harvested the rice and they bundled it.
Yes.
Literally. And then they would have mounds of the straw and everything, and they didn't know what to do with it. So then we would go out there, and I had some neighbors. There was a magnolia pumping plant about a block, what now would be a city block from us. And Nevlin Foreman, I don't know if you know her, and her sister lived there. So we would go out and make houses in that rice hulls. It would be tall, and you could dig in it. And
Did they have rice wells that you could swim in?
Oh, certainly.
back
We would
then,
walk.
too?
We didn't have to walk very far from my house to the rice well, about a mile, I guess. Back then, that was nothing. But see, my sister would go with me, and that's the only place we had to swim when we were real young.
Yeah.
Didn't get any better when we got older.
And we loved paper dolls.
Oh,
I
yes.
forgot about that.
Cut
them out of the
Sears
catalog.
Oh yeah. Oh, that was. And make matchbox, the little white thing that came out of the kitchen matchbox.
Yes.
Oh,
They
okay.
had a little piece of paper that was like a table, built like this, and that we made furniture out of that. Remember? I'm sure you
No, I
did.
can't remember.
Oh well, you're younger than I am. It's okay. But anyway, we entertained ourselves very well. We didn't get bored.
We didn't have a lot of supervision either.
No,
I mean,
no.
your mother, you went out in the morning a lot of times and you stayed out all day just to come in to
Yeah.
eat when you were little.
Yeah.
They didn't check on you
Yeah.
all the time. I'm sure they were, but we didn't think
But they had lots to do. They were
Yeah.
busy.
But you know, one of my main memories is a really good memory with my mother is when I was little bitty. We moved in that house when I was about 4 or 3, and we in the spring she kept waiting because she wouldn't plant her garden until it got right, the season got right, and we would walk from the house that we lived in on Peak Road, north, out here off of North Katy, and to the creek, that Elrod Creek, and walking up that hill. It was a slope. She waited till the little bitty forget-me-not blooms were coming out, little purple flowers, and they still come out if you have a yard that's kind of country. And when they started blooming, she knew it was time to plant her garden. And she'd take her fishing pole and catch perch in that, and then
my
go home and
goodness.
fry them for
Oh,
lunch.
wow, good.
That is the greatest memory with my mother. I love it. I love it.
That's awesome.
Anyway,
And what
old
about
time
what about your clothes? What did you wear?
What kind of clothes? Made from feed sacks, which when the feed company realized what we were doing, they would printed pretty
floral.
cute things.
Yeah.
And me being the youngest, I got hand-me-downs, you know, and very seldom, I don't know of buying. Someone, one of our neighbors sewed. Mother didn't sew. She had a sewing machine, but she said by the time I came along, she gave that up.
She was
As the fourth
tired.
child.
She was tired.
So one of our neighbors, she'd sew for us, you know, and we loved getting a new dress, but that didn't happen very often,
No.
you know.
But it was dresses. It wasn't pants.
No, you didn't wear pants.
I think I showed you that picture of a class. I've forgotten what age we were.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
it was freezing cold, but
Yeah,
only
you could
3.
wear it under your dress.
Yes, but you had to have a dress on, and then you
Yep.
could put on pants.
That even
Long
was my era
Is
too.
it really?
Yes.
Okay.
It
You
had to be
remember doing-
cold.
Yes.
We listened to the radio. It had to be below 60
Yes.
to be able to wear
Yes.
pants to
Yes.
school.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it took a while to change that.
Yes, it did. And when it did, boy, did it change.
That's
Oh,
right.
we
Oh,
loved
yeah.
it.
And
My
now
mother loved that. She loved her first pantsuit.
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
she loved that.
Did you have any chores that you had to do as a kid?
Oh, yeah. All right. I got to gather the eggs and throw out some of the feed. And we just threw it on the ground.
Yeah.
Our chickens were roaming. They weren't pinned up.
No.
And I was kind of scared to reach under a chicken to get an egg because sometimes big old snakes were there that ate the eggs. They wouldn't hurt you, but
They make you hurt yourself.
Yes, that's right.
Big time.
and I had to. Of course, we always made our bed up as soon as we got up, and of course, with 2 sisters ahead of me, they got the bun of it. I didn't know how to cook when I got married because my sisters were ahead of me and everything. And then I had to dust things. And I remember on Saturday at 9 o'clock, the program Let's Pretend came over the radio, and I loved hearing that. But I had to have my chores done before I could. So that gets you up. You didn't sleep late in the house. On the farmers, they were used to getting up, and you got up with them.
Yeah.
Well, as soon as you could.
Oh.
But it wasn't bad, you know.
No. Well, we had to get up because my sister and I shared a bed, but it was in the
Yeah.
end of the living room. We didn't have, but they only was one bedroom.
Yeah.
And then they had closed in the porch into a little room for my
Yeah.
brother. And our bed, my sister and my bed, were right outside the kitchen door in the end of the living room, and that's where we slept. So when Daddy got up and ate breakfast, which was right inside that door, well, you didn't lay in the bed. You got up. But the chores were I was like Beth, you know. My sister didn't do cooking either. I didn't know how to cook. I'd never boiled an egg when I got married. I didn't know how. I really didn't. My mother, I guess we'd starved to death if she hadn't come out to the little shack that we lived in and taught me how to boil eggs and do stuff because that wasn't the chores that I had to do. We had to shell peas out on the front porch in the heat, and I never lived in a house that had air conditioning ever. I told you, I've never lived in a house that had an indoor bathroom till I was 14. So anyway, but shell peas, I hated it, but I loved eating them.
Yeah.
So it was
Yeah,
okay.
I loved to eat 'em.
And we kind of entertained ourselves. Mother sang hymns all day long in her, low voice, but she was happy, and we would sing songs, and we'd visit, and we'd say, oh, look at that cricket, or look at, I think that's where I learned to love outdoors and nature and flowers and things.
Good.
Was at that time, which was really a blessing because today's children don't get that opportunity, and I really hate it. Even my own great-grandchildren don't get that opportunity unless they're at my house.
That's a good thing for you.
It is, yeah.
All right, how about school? Tell me where you went to school, what you learned, favorite teachers.
Well, we didn't have a choice.
That's why.
There was only one Katy school, and it's the property where the Katy Elementary is now.
Okay.
And that held the elementary school, if junior high, if you want to call it, and the high school. All those were on the same property. Our gym, and later a football field, later the ag field. You didn't have all of that then. And the school bus would come early, and they didn't, they ran it the same way, so you got on early. If you were one of the first ones on, you were one of the last ones off. So it was a long day.
Yeah.
For little ones too, especially. And we didn't have kindergarten then. So we loved it. That's all we knew.
Oh yeah, I mean, and we loved our teachers. I mean, I never had a bad teacher when I was in elementary school.
No, we thought maybe some of them.
Well,
were.
one of them moved my hand back and hit me with a ruler one time.
You probably deserved it.
I know. I'm afraid to say that, but Miss Roark, she took your.
Well, if you got punished at school, you got punished when you got home. And don't ask me how they found out so quick. My brother was always getting in trouble. And by the time he'd get home, Mother would know about it, or Dad.
Yeah.
You know.
Word travels, and we never had a telephone, so it wasn't by phone.
No,
so
it wasn't.
We were very, very poor, but we never knew it. You didn't know it.
Yeah.
I mean, most all my friends
Oh, you
wore
didn't
the same
get in
kind of.
trouble.
I mean, my mother made everything we wore, but she ordered out of the Sears catalog our underwear and things like that. But never went to a store when we were that young. We did go later in life. Well, actually, after we had children, I think, or got married, had kids. But we never knew we were poor. Not at all.
What kind of subjects did you study in school? Or
We
what
did
was your
writing,
favorite?
arithmetic.
On the old Big Chief tablets,
Yes,
we
read-
learned to write, print, not write,
Curse.
print.
Oh, well, print
We didn't.
first.
Yeah, we had to learn that before you.
Fifth grade is where we really picked up
Cursive.
because Mrs. Roar,
But we didn't call it cursive.
no, and she
called
wrote
it
with
writing.
a pen staff
Oh yeah.
and dipped it in the ink, and then she had beautiful handwriting.
She did.
Boy, she was tough on us to
Yeah.
learn that, and that was in the 5th grade.
But I bet you never had to rewrite. I will not talk in class. Print, not write, print.
How many times?
A whole page. I mean, really. And I got educated that way. It was okay. It was okay. I deserved it. I love
I'm
to
sure
talk.
I did.
I love to talk.
So were there any extracurricular activities around
Mostly
school or
church.
yeah?
Yeah, nothing at church
Because
school.
we had a lot
Nothing
of
at-
churches, even for a small town. At one time, it was called City of Churches,
Yeah.
and it may still be. I don't know.
I don't think the signs are still up.
No, that
You
was
know.
a long time ago.
Yeah.
And we didn't celebrate every birthday. At least my family didn't. And I can only remember one birthday party I probably had. But you probably had a cake. Mother said, "What kind of cake do you want this year?" She'd ask each of us. So when you got off the school bus, here was this hot cake. Oh, that was so good. She let us have. They had milk cows, so milk and that hot cake. I still like that today.
Okay, the one thing from school you asked about the school activities was maypole. Remember? Maypole.
Yes,
Wrapping the
oh
maypole.
my gosh.
They had that, and that was a biggie. I mean, really, and really nice. And of course, we had slides that were hot, and they would burn you going down them, but we'd run back up them and slide back down. I mean, really, and just even
In your dresses.
In our dresses.
In our dresses.
And you take wax paper to make them slick. Sit on the wax paper.
I think I used brown paper. I don't think I even had wax paper. But anyway,
Burn yourself.
Yeah, I know. But that was something that was an activity from school back then in the elementary class. I remember you dressed in your prettiest dress that day.
Was it? And was that part of Queen of Hearts? Because that became a big thing.
That was in
Katy.
February. I think.
That was in
This was in
February.
May. So anyway, but that was one of the bigger extracurricular activities that we that we looked forward to.
And the later, the FFA rodeo parade.
Yeah.
Katy turned out for the parades.
Yeah.
You know, the band would march. And the horses, a lot of them were cowboys and cowgirls. What else? Anybody that had a business put that in there. If it's a car business, they put new cars in or something. So that was fun to go to Katy. And
way over and above what they do now. It was a different group, different time of season, but it was really fun, and it was a big deal. They did not throw $100 worth of candy out either. That was not.
Yeah.
That came later, way later.
remember when, was it called Mrs. Baird's then? They threw out little loaves of bread.
Yes.
And that, oh boy, everybody scrambled to
Well,
get that.
and when we used to go into Houston after we didn't tell you today, but to go to the bank once a month, we stopped at the Miss Baird factory on Washington Avenue, and they gave you bread.
Oh.
And they had plates of it that you could eat, like anybody could walk up and get pieces, but then they gave you a loaf. And those were the cutest things. I mean, they really were, and we looked forward
Just
to
drive by and it smells so good.
It did, yeah. That was a good memory from way back. So, yeah.
So tell me about at church. What activities did you do at church as young ladies?
Well, they had a lot of covered dish
Potluck.
suppers, lunches, because everybody did homemade things. And of course, the kids loved that because you could eat about as much as you wanted.
And nobody
to.
cared if you ate a bunch of cookies and cake and pie without eating dinner.
And it was all homemade. I
Yeah.
mean, well, we didn't have the big grocery stores then. We did have grocery stores, but not.
Well, that was something we did Sunday morning, Sunday school, church. It wasn't an option. You didn't have an option. You went. You didn't think anything about it. Wednesday night, Sunday night we went to church. BTU. What they have before church on Sunday night? But anyway, we went to that, which was earlier, and then Wednesday night you went to church.
Yeah.
It was prayer meeting. I mean, that was just something you did. And as a child, we looked forward to it because we didn't do much else, So it was a good thing, And it was, everybody did it. Of course, I was Baptist. Beth was Methodist.
Christmas was a big thing at the churches because a lot of families could not afford any kind of Christmas. So one of the ladies in our community would fix fruit sacks and nuts and an orange and an apple.
And that twisted candy.
Yes.
Twisted Christmas
and
candy.
we loved that. And I know she was Baptist and I was Methodist. And we could hear Santa outside. The bells would be ringing and they wouldn't let us go look. We were so excited when Santa came in, and everybody got just that sack of fruit. You didn't get gifts
No.
then,
No.
and maybe some of the kids' classes sang.
Well,
We
yeah.
like to see they like to see the little kids
Yeah.
sing.
I love the Christmas music that we used to sing back then.
yeah.
Of course, I love it now also, but the old-timey Christmas songs that the kids learned when I was a child, what I learned was my favorite even today. They have meaning.
Was what?
They have meaning to them.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yes.
So were there any sports that you played at school?
When we got older, a little bit older.
Yeah.
Let's see, what did we play? Did some running when we were in elementary school.
Running?
Yeah,
I remember that.
racing type thing. Oh,
Red
Red
Rover.
Rover.
That was the game.
Yeah.
that was a game. But we did do a lot of that.
Yeah,
and there was a
well-
couple other things that we did as games when we
Yes,
were
we
in elementary school.
And then, of course, later, volleyball was big,
Yeah.
and basketball, because those were smaller teams than
Yes.
football. Started out as 6 men in Katy. If you didn't have 12, because there wasn't enough
Yeah.
young men to play.
Right.
And you didn't have lights for a field for a long time.
Right.
So finally they got some lights where Katy Elementary is. That was a football field right in there.
Yeah.
And all Katy was big on football once it started.
They always, when we
Yes.
were little even, and my brother played as a young man and then all the way through high school, he played football. It was a big deal in Katy.
Oh, yeah.
And then it has always
Still
been
is.
a big deal and still and always will be,
Yeah.
which is great. I love to watch them.
And Rotary always had a baseball team. And Mr. Taylor, who was the superintendent later, and in fact, Taylor High School was the first high school built, I believe. And he was a bachelor, and he always dressed so neat. And I just couldn't understand. We'd go to the games, Rotary game, and he would play with the Rotary. He could slide into home base and get up, just dust himself off, and just need a fit. And our daddies were just so dirty. We didn't understand how that happened. Oh, but they had a few adult baseball games.
Yeah. And then
going.
in school, of course, we could play baseball later,
Yeah.
which I didn't like. I hated playing baseball. I don't know why. I loved volleyball, and I was a good spiker.
That's
but I
because you
was-
were tall.
I know, but I was not going to play baseball, and I told Miss Hamilton that. She wasn't Miss Hamilton then, Mamie. She was Mamie Lynch. And I told her one day, I said, I'm not going to dress out. And she said, yes, you are. And I said, no, I'm not. So I didn't, and I got sent to the principal's office. And
I wished I could have known her when she
and
was
I
young.
13, and she never changed expression. You know how she was? You can see her.
She
can't
taught
you?
me typing.
I know. Can't
Oh,
you
yeah.
see her? She tried teaching me typing. She never
Yeah.
succeeded. But that's okay. I wasn't that smart. Coordinated.
So tell me about later school, high school graduation. How many in your class?
There were 20, how many in our class? 21, maybe, I think. And a few of us went all the way through, but that was unusual even then for that to happen, because people were moving around when Exxon Humble came, and that was when Joel and I was in second grade, I think.
I believe so. I'm not
I
real
think
sure.
when Humble came to Katy and changed a lot of things.
Yeah, it did.
The way we lived, what we did, it did. That many people.
Changed the friendships that were, because some of the kids became very close friends with
Yeah.
the Humble kids. And,
Yeah.
But we enjoyed the Humble kids coming because we were invited to the parties out at the camp.
Wow.
Yeah, we got
We
more things.
we didn't know how that side of the family or Katy lived until that, and they were very
Yeah.
very nice to us.
The women played bridge.
Uh-huh.
They danced.
Mhm.
The kids danced. I didn't know how to dance.
It was
you
a
know.
good. It was a good thing for Katy.
It was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was. But anyway, yeah. So.
All right, and what year did you graduate?
1953.
53. All right.
Many moons ago.
Many moons ago. Okay, so tell me about being a teenager and dating and
Well, that's a short story. I didn't date much. Of course, Dad and Mother, I don't think they let Mariel and my older sisters date till they at least 16 or 17, probably, you know. And, but, you know, you saw each other at school and you went to games together, and Brookshire had the only movie theater. So we went to Brookshire. I didn't meet my husband of 68 years almost. Met him in high school when he moved out from Houston. And so we would go to Brookshire. That was one of our first dates. But he didn't have a car, so we hoped his dad would let us use his car, you know, sometime. And we weren't supposed to go anywhere but where we told him we would go, and it did not include Houston. But we wanted to go to Houston one time. Well, his dad lived right close to where Cracker Barrel is right now. And so we would go, and we would hope he wouldn't be out in this garden and see us drive by. There was not an I-10 then. It was the old 90. So he possibly could have seen us. So we snuck around to there and to Rosenberg, which had a drive-in movie, and that was cheaper.
Yes.
You
Well,
know.
the original movie theater in Katy was in the
yeah, I
old building that sat at Avenue C and 2nd Street. And old people remember it like me, but most people do not. But
No,
then,
I forgot about it.
yeah, that
Because
most
I never
people-
went there.
That I did get to go there very seldom, but it didn't show. It didn't show every week. It came.
is that the big white building?
No, it's not there anymore. It's
It's
Oh,
across
it's
where
gone
the old
down.
fire station used
Okay.
to be.
yeah.
Romac, we called it the Romac. Oh, he owns the business then.
But that wasn't the same building.
No.
no,
Okay.
it
Oh, it
was
wasn't?
no,
Oh, I
no,
thought
no.
it
It was.
It's
it was-
a two-story.
Oh yeah, but anyway, that's where I got to go to the movies as a child. Of course, Mother went too. You know, Mother and Daddy. But it cost a nickel to get in, and the shows were Tom Mix or something. You know, some old westerns, and my daddy loved those. But we couldn't go all the time. Well, it didn't show very often. But anyway, that was a good memory from when I was young, and most people say there was never a movie theater. Yes, there was.
Uh-huh.
And I have seen where other people have posted on Facebook, yes, there was. I remember it, you know, old people. So
Yeah.
anyway, it was fun though.
But you didn't play, or at least we didn't. You couldn't play cards on Sunday. You didn't go to movies on Sundays. Things like that. Dominoes.
Yeah.
You didn't play. They just.
never entered our head. Well, and they certainly
Pretty
didn't
strict.
have sports on Sunday
Yeah.
for children or anything. All you did was go to church and go home and eat a very big meal with your family on Sunday. My mother cooked every Sunday a big meal. She prepared it on Saturday. You know, they were organized where we can't hardly get that away
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah.
But and then anybody could come. I mean, she wanted you to come because she cooked enough food for everybody. But anyway, yeah. But that movie theater stuck in my mind because I remember coming out of it and walking down the side of it. There are no sidewalks, of course, and somebody had dropped some change pennies and nickels.
Oh.
And I remember picking that up. Now, why that would stick in my mind, I have no idea.
Well,
But I didn't have any money or
Yeah,
change.
that was
so
exciting.
It was a big deal. I remember picking it up. That's so silly to remember. We remember crazy
It
things.
is, yeah.
Crazy things. But,
So tell me about your dating.
well, let's see. I didn't get to date very much. Of course, I was very young, and my mother certainly wouldn't have let me date. But my sister was getting ready to get married. She'd been dating her fiance for a long time, and she was 5 years older, so she was 19 when she started getting ready to get married in May of 1950. And so I had met Gene, my husband, I think I told you, rode horses from Martin Road. My friend's grandfather had horses. We rode those horses to the old Katy High School, had a roping thing. It wasn't a big deal at all, but on Saturday, a goat roping on Friday nights. And she and I would ride our horses down, her horses down there. And have to ride back by the cemetery, which scared you to death, and we rode very fast, poor horses. But anyway, and that's where I met my husband, and he and a friend, and his friend was Cajun, and we called him Popeye. His name was Alan Fontenot, and so they decided they wanted to date Francine and I, which my mother would not let that happen. I was 14, I mean, barely, and so we decided that I would tell her I was spending the night with her, and her mother let her, and so anyway, so I would go spend the night with her, and they would come and get us and take us to the movie in Berkshire, and we did that 3 different times, and then if my mother had found out, I would not be alive today. But no, not really. Yeah, I probably wouldn't. But anyway, so then Gene asked Alan or Popeye, if he wanted to trade, he wanted to go with me. And she said, yeah, I really would. In other words, yeah. So I went with him, and from then on out, well, we dated. And there was a lot to tell between that time and the time that I got married, but it was fun. And so that was it. I dated a couple of other boys I called dating, that they would come and get me and take me to get ice cream or something. But then you go back home, that's it, So anyway.
And so when did you and Jean get married? And tell me leading up to that.
Okay, well, since my mother was very busy getting ready for my sister's wedding, and of course she made the dress, and hers was little bitty covered buttons from all the way down, and so they were busy all the time. She paid no attention to me. When you're the youngest child,
Yeah.
you're not paid attention to very closely. And anyway, so I went with him let's see, we started doing the theater in Berkshire thing. I was probably barely 14, and Jean was 3 years older than me. So anyway, we decided that we'd been going out long enough that we would just get married. My sister was getting married. Why couldn't I get married?
Yeah.
I wanted to. So we planned to elope. And so she got married on May the 3rd, big church wedding at the First Baptist Church in Katy. And so we planned it. There was some kind of a debate on a Saturday, the 19th of May. And we decided that he could come and get me and take me to that, because they were letting me go to church with him, but when we got home, they flipped the light if you sat in the car more than 5 minutes. Literally 5 minutes is all you got to sit in the car. I don't know if that happened to you, but it did me.
Yeah.
And yeah. Boop, boop. Anyway, and I have had mother say, time to come in, at the door. But anyway, so we decided to elope, and so he came and got me that Saturday morning, and we went to Rosenberg. Well, we did the blood work at Katy. Dr. Vandenboschi, I think, was the doctor. Well, doctor, patient privilege, you don't tell anybody. And we got married, and we got over there, and we already had the license and the blood work and everything done, and that judge said, nah, who's going to sign for you? You're 15, barely 15. I said, he said, no. So we had come back to Katy. We had taken some friends with us, a couple that Peggy and Nikki Monaco went with us. And we brought them back to Katy and got Jean's mother, and she went back over there with us, and she signed for us to get married. So we got married. And there's a lot to it, but I'm sure you don't want to hear all.
Well, I do.
Beth doesn't want to hear it again.
Well, I do know you told me there was a reason why you thought you needed to get married.
I know what you're going to say. Yes, you don't really want me.
Oh yes, please.
Just won't tell it. That's what everybody was like.
Okay, so we got married and went into Houston, spent the night with Jean's grandparents. They were old, and had a big house, and we stayed at their house. And we got up the next morning, which was a Sunday, and decided to come back to get me some clothes. I certainly didn't take a suitcase. Didn't have a suitcase. Didn't own a suitcase. Had never been anywhere. So we came back, and Mother and Daddy met us at the door, and Daddy had a shotgun, and he told Jean to not get out of the car, but to just go ahead and leave if you didn't want to get shot. And I had to go in the house, which I did. And anyway, so I stayed at the house, and Jean left. And of course I was crying, carried on. And Mother was crying. And she said, you broke my heart. But anyway, so I got to stay there till Monday, and they took me into Houston to the court to have it annulled. And went before a judge. My uncle was very familiar with the judge, and he thought he could get it done real easily. And the judge said, so when did you get married? And Saturday. And he said, so you spent Saturday night and Saturday night? Yes. With each other? He said, we don't annul. You might be pregnant. I hadn't even thought about it. I am not kidding you. That hadn't even entered our head. Anyway, so we went back home. And then we were determined, but Mother and Daddy wanted me to finish school, high school, because I finished the freshman grade was all. I think we just finished it on a Thursday or Friday or something until I got married. Anyway, so I did not want to go back to school, so I decided I'd run away from home, and I did. And running, I didn't know how to drive, so it had to be walking. Anyway,
you weren't old enough.
No, I wasn't old enough. But anyway, so I ran off and had to run a long ways. That was Clay Road, and all the way over to 529, and through rice fields. I mean, it was May, and I'm scared to death of snakes, and it was through the wet rice fields, and anyway, it was awful. Anyway, Gene happened to see me. He was driving up and down the road, hunting me and honking the horn, and trying to find me because he knew I was on foot. I had to be on foot.
Everybody was looking for
I know everybody, my Mother and Daddy.
They would call people out to look for her.
Yeah,
We were praying for her. Us young ones were praying for Jill.
I was okay. So anyway, I did see him, and I did run over and get in the car, and then we went to his Mother and Daddy's house, who lived farther out, Katy, down Longlandbar Road. And Mother said, well, if you're gonna keep doing this, I guess you can just have to stay married. But we want
And
you
you
to
were
finish
married
school.
how many years?
61 before
Yes.
he died. This would have been my 74th year if he had lived. Anyway, so that's my story.
That's your story. I love it.
Yeah,
I love
it was
it.
my 50th wedding anniversary party where I said what I did that you wanted me to say. Why I got married. It's okay. That'll come up later.
I just remember it was pouring down
was pouring.
rain.
Between
Just the bottom had fallen out of the sky, and I was so worried about her.
between here and Richmond, every cotton field was flooded.
I
Solid
don't doubt it.
water. Yeah.
It's terrible.
Anyway. But young people who are in love do really strange things.
Yeah.
I agree. So tell me about your wedding.
Yeah. Hers was
Already,
beautiful,
well,
beautiful, beautiful.
My sisters had been married, so I used my older sister's gown and just added something to it. We got married where the United Methodist Fellowship Hall, that was our church then. And it was in December, and I didn't go back to college to finish college that year.
And where were you going to college?
Yes.
Where?
Oh, at Sam Houston
Okay.
in Huntsville. I would have been a senior. So I'm sure Mom and Dad didn't say much. Dad was probably relieved that he didn't have to. He was going to get rid of me. And Sonny wanted to get engaged, and Mom had asked, since I was going off to college, that was when I was out of high school, to wait to get an engagement ring, because Sonny was a year behind me in high school. And so he would be doing things, and I'd be doing stuff up there. So, and you didn't run back and forth from college then. That was too far, 75 miles, I think it was. Anyway, so we both dated some as high school then, and then had a church wedding, and my oldest sister was an organist, and she said, I'm tired of playing organs for all the weddings. So I made her my matron of honor, and also my other sister, Margaret, and then two friends, well, one relative and one friend. So just 4 attendants. And I had plenty of time to plan it, since I hadn't gone back to school. I had red velvet dresses, and we had poinsettias. So it's very, very few flowers, just what was in church, and one of the ministers, and then Greg Longenball helped with the service too. We loved him. And then Mother and Dad had the reception out their home, which we loved. And Sonny and I couldn't afford a honeymoon, so we went to the Methodist encampment. If you wrote a letter, your minister, to the bishop, if it was available, his suite, which was not fancy, believe me, because it was at a church camp, they would let you stay there with nothing. So we were the only ones there in the middle of December.
Oh, yeah.
And the cook had to be there for us. And the guy that let us in says, now, this lock is kind of bad, so be careful. You could lock yourself out. So we went into town that night and came home, and we had locked ourselves out. And we had to wake up, it's embarrassing at that age.
Yes.
Well, I think we got to stay there 2 days, and that was it. And then went to visit grandparents that lived in that area. While you're out, you just well do that.
Yes.
So
That's fun.
and I felt like he was my life person. We've been married. It'll be 68 years in December. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Very blessed. Very
Yeah.
blessed.
Tell
me about your children.
Okay, well, I had children early, of course, and I got married May the 20th of 1950, and my oldest daughter was born November 30th, 1951. So we'd been married a year and a half almost, and then
Who delivered?
that was at the Heights Hospital,
Oh,
Dr.
okay.
Quirk. I'm sorry, it wasn't Quirk. That was Larry's doctor.
So you had yours delivered in the hospital?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, I wouldn't have had a baby at home.
Well, yeah, by the time
Unless
we
I
came along.
had to. But
Yeah,
anyway,
they were doing
yeah.
that. Yeah.
Anyway, she was born in there, and then I had no idea how to take care of a baby. I'd never been around a baby in my whole life. I'd never changed a diaper. I'd never fed a baby. I'm not kidding you. I had nothing, no way of knowing how to do any of that. If my mother had not been there, and Jean's mother, she was very special too. But and then I got pregnant with Larry, my son. He was born in Sugar Land. Dr. Quirk delivered him, which is a very strange name. But and he was 16 months. They were 16 months difference in their age. And then I, of course, didn't work, and Jean had to work 2 or 3 jobs to make ends meet because we had nothing, you know. When we got married, we moved. I think I told you the old time that I lived in a house without an indoors bathroom until I was 14, and Mother and Daddy rented a house that from the Stockdicks, and it had an indoor bathroom, and we rented it, and we didn't live there 8 months until I ran off and got married, and I moved to a house that did not have an indoor bathroom. So that's what you call poor. Yeah. But anyway, it's okay. And when Larry was born, we lived, Ed Helwig, who was a very well-known, very, very sweet man that lived in Fulshire, owned a big rice farm. And actually, Nubby Robichaud and Mabel had lived in the house when they got married that we moved to when Gail was a baby and when I got pregnant with Larry. And we lived in that house, and so it was old because they'd been married for a long time. Anyway, then he built us a new house, a little 2-bedroom house with a bathroom, and for Jean to work for him. And so we moved to that. And then I ended up getting pregnant with Sherry, and Larry was, I think there's not quite 2 years between them. And we went to work for Lewis Hager on a rice farm, and that we lived off of close to 529 while she was a baby. And we still were poor because I didn't even have a clothes dryer, and I had 2 babies in diapers all the time. It was either Gail and Larry, or when I finally got Gail out of them, it was Larry and Sherry. And it was fun. No clothes dryer. Doing good to have a wash machine, you know. And Jean's daddy came out one day, and I had diapers strung from one end of the house to the other, trying to dry them. It was summer, but it was rainy, you know. And anyway, so he went to town and bought us, I think that Western Auto might have already been there. Okay, remember Mr. Sloan had that Western Auto? And Jean's daddy went into town and bought us that clothes dryer. Brought it back out there and hooked it up and said, "Get those diapers out," which was very nice. But and then Sherry was 2 when I got pregnant with Janice, and her birthday was the 4th of July. So anyway, 4 kids, and I thought it was fun. You know, being a kid, I was 16, 18, 20, and 22 when those kids were born. I was still a kid, practically. I'm not in so many words, but so it wasn't a drudgery at all. It really wasn't. I mean, I remember bringing all 4 of them down to the Doobie's variety store, and Catherine Doobie loved my children, and she would come and hug them all, and she'd say, "I wish everybody's kids were as good as yours when they're in here, because they're not." You know, she was such a sweet lady.
Sweet.
But anyway, so the kids and I grew up, and Jean grew up together, really, literally. You know, so that was the story of my children.
That's good.
We had good times, and you did too.
Tell me about your kids, Beth.
We had 2 boys, 2 sons, 3 years apart. When I got pregnant with Wesley, we were still living in Houston, and we wanted to get back out to Katy so bad. I'd never lived in the city, so I wasn't too happy about that, but I was working for Omalall, so I had to ride the city bus, which I never had before. So that was an experience in itself, because I worked downtown. And then we moved out to Katy, and Dad had an old red house on Stockdick Road, and he let us have it. I think rent it for $45 a month, which that was okay. But he found out that Sonny got home like at 5:30, and he said, "I noticed you get in early, so I have some fences that need mending out there. If you'll do them, I won't charge you anything." So Dad believes you work in your own way, you know.
Yeah.
So Sonny loves that, and we had a big garden, you know, and so then later we moved into the house where I was born on Katy Hockley. All of them were not in good shape. But we didn't care. We were just so glad to be out
Yeah.
in Katy, and drive back and forth to work to Houston a lot of times. So, and both boys graduated from the Katy
And so what,
schools.
when were your boys born?
What?
When were your boys born?
Oh, 1958 and 1961.
Okay.
And both graduated from Katy. And Mike graduated from A&M. Wesley went for a while, but he didn't finish college either, like his mama. But he lives close to us, and Michael is a minister, and he's up in East Texas.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we enjoy them.
Oh, yeah. And my kids, all 4 of them graduated from Katy High School.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're old Katy people.
That's a good
And I
thing.
was born in 1934, and Beth was born in 35. So
Yeah.
we are, she's 2 months younger, which she never lets me forget. But anyway,
I let her.
you could tell by looking, though. It's okay. Yeah.
So when you were young adults, what did you do for fun or?
Okay, when we were young adults and had our 4 children, we didn't do much. We worked a lot. I should have told also about Mr. Miller helping us buy a home. Remember that? And so many old Katy people knew A.O. Miller, Arthur Miller. He was
Yes.
such a big name in Katy because he owned the Chevrolet company and he owned a lot of stuff, and he was a very good man. I really wanted to say that because they need to know what another side of Mr. Miller is, and how much we appreciated him, because Gene drove a humble bulk truck for him for several years, and he's the one that talked us into building our first home. And we had 4 kids. They were little though, all of them, and we had been living in pitiful rent houses, and he said, "You need to build a house." So we did, and I felt like I needed to do something. Well, we couldn't afford to do anything, so I invited him for supper one night. And when you're dumb and young, you cook everything you know how to cook. I had enough food for an army, 2 or 3 meats, fried chicken, roast, probably. I know me, Anyway, and he came, and I was surprised. Now, Miss Miller did not come. I'm sure she would have not enjoyed that much noise with my 4 children. But anyway, and after supper, I remember, and it's still in my mind, is the reason I want to say this, is that he sat in the middle of our living room floor, and there's toys everywhere with 4 kids under the age of, 6? Well, they weren't even that old then. Anyway, and played with those kids forever. I mean, played cars, played blocks, built things, What a delightful person.
That's special.
That
We enjoy
and
it.
had so much fun. Somebody knocking on my door. Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, there we go.
We're good to go.
All right, we're back after a short interruption. All right. I'm not exactly sure where we're either, but I think we're talking kind of about early Katy. If you have memories that you want to, because we had talked about what you did for fun as adults.
What we did as fun as adults.
I think that's what we were
There's
talking.
one thing I wanted to talk
Okay.
about. When we were growing up, it seemed like every man was a hunter in Katy. They would go deer hunting, and they always went deer hunting. It's usually around the lakey area, hill
Oh,
country.
yeah.
And Berkshire Times would say, the men are, and someone stopped saying that because there's no men left in Katy to protect it. But that was one of the things that entertained us. Mr. Pitts had his grocery store down there on 2nd Street, and they would bring their deer in clear from the hill country, no refrigerated ice chests, with the skin still on them, tied to their pickups. Drive that far. No wonder my mother didn't like venison. I can understand that, but it was a big deal, and they would line them up at Mr. Pitts, And all the families would come in and take pictures, bring the grandkids, kids. Everybody had a picture of them doing that. It was a big deal.
It was.
And they depended on, they ate the venison. I'm surprised people didn't die from poisoning.
Yeah, that was a good memory.
Oh, it
good
was.
memory. Yeah.
All right, I think my battery is starting to get low. So let's see. Let's think
Yeah.
about what have I not asked? What story would you like to tell? What would you like to share?
What story? Short story, because her battery's getting low.
Well, I'm not sure exactly how long it has, but we're
About getting old.
No.
You can't hear.
Oh, okay. What do you want to hear? Like times.
Yeah, what's different now in Katy than in old Katy?
Everything.
That you remember?
Because way back when we were younger, there was no police department. The volunteer fire department was a big deal, and they were great guys. But there was no police department until Pat came and Gene went to work. He was the second policeman to go to work, and so we felt like we were safe. Katy was safer because, of course, we had the sheriff, Mr. Hood, H.A. Hood, and Buster Roberts. Mr. Roberts were the police of the day,
Mm-hmm.
But so then we felt safer. But times changed because the streets were starting to be paved with blacktop or whatever, and most of them were still dirt or gravel or whatever. I remember all that, and but we enjoyed seeing new things happen in Katy. Of course, we didn't. There was no zoning in Katy. You could build wherever, but if you could afford it, you could build it, and there were homes built. Slowly but surely, new homes were being built. No subdivisions, When they first started building subdivisions, the ones down the street from me were built, the Village Green and that kind of thing. But so times changed slowly but surely, and most of it was for the better. It's now such a busy place, but I still think it's a very dear place to raise a family. Yeah. When we built our home back in 1966, I wouldn't have wanted to live anywhere else. I mean, it's always been great. My kids had a great life here, and I had a great life here, so it was good. Beth feels the same way, I know.
I've always lived in the country, so that's a little different than living in the town. But I think for us, a lot of us older people, the church is still our center pretty well, because we do things with the churches, go on trips and things like that. But everything is done for the children mostly now. It's different than when we grew up, and so that's interfered with our church things on Sundays. You had never had a game on Sunday or even Wednesday night. You just didn't do that. And with the grocery stores and everything opening all the time now, so you had to get your groceries before Sunday, or because you couldn't buy anything on Sunday. So some of those, it just depends on your way of life, how much you think it has changed for the good. And there are good things, but like Jill said, it's just so different than when we grew up. So you have to maybe have a smaller circle of friends.
Yeah.
It's I think as you grow older, your friends kind of shrink in.
Right. Well, our lifestyle has changed because I've lost my husband. Now Beth's fortunate that she hasn't, but once you lose your spouse or your children, I've lost, the two children. Life changes. Your priorities change. And so honestly, the church is still the main thing in your life, even though I don't drive and don't go to church. But I have church on my iPads, and everything's good.
That's amazing.
That's good. And so
What are the good things
I feel-
came from COVID?
it
And
did.
and
It
I
did.
like that the Heritage Society is doing what they're doing. That
love
means
it.
a lot to people like us.
It does.
And
We
I
don't-
think it helps bring people into Katy. People like us are hoping to still have that center of the old Katy. And we thank y'all for doing what you do.
The memories are so important. It doesn't matter if your family, if it's memories with your family, with your friends, with your church, or what. But you don't get to relive those memories.
No.
They're there. And if you don't keep them one way or the other, you're losing them. You're losing out. And it's hard to remember all this. Just like we did this before. We don't remember everything we talked about at all. We don't, and that's okay. It's still good new memories that we have, and I really am glad you're doing this. I really appreciate it. Even though if you're not, they say, oh no.
No, ladies, I thank you, and I appreciate this. I know we could talk on and on and on,
we could.
but I feel like you both given me a great closing here, and
Good.
I appreciate your time so much. And I don't know if you ever feel like chatting again, we could just
Oh, we could do that. We could talk all day.
We
and all
could.
night.
We'll just,
and we could hear about your family because I remember your mother and
Yes.
daddy.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I know it, see.
It was a very good family.
Yes.
And your mother was a beautiful lady.
it was, and it was.
I
We were
remember
very
how-
blessed to come to Katy. We really were.
I remember how sweet she and pretty. She was a beautiful lady, wasn't she?
She was.
She really was.
She was,
pretty.
so, all right.
No, never been told that about us.
Is there any other last words you'd like to say before I turn this off?
What a great life we've had, being born,
Oh,
born and raised in Katy, and children being born here.
We've
And
been blessed.
it's such a blessing. Yeah, it is. And we're blessed to be here.
Yeah.
Who knew 89 and 100 years ago that we were going to be sitting here talking to you about it? Nobody, so. And I lost my parents early, so I had no idea that I'd be living long. And Beth didn't either. We don't know. That's the whole thing.
You never know.
And we never know, and we take advantage of what we do know and the memories of it. So, but it's great. It's a good life. It's been a great life.
Well, thank you very much, ladies.
Thank
Yes,
you.
I
thank you,
appreciate it.
Jerrilyn. Really very sweet. Love it.